Aloha, dear friends, beautiful, bright, glittering souls, and soul family all across the galaxy, our beautiful globe, Mama Gaia, and across the digital universe. How are you? This is Marissa Indigo tuning in and wanted to just drop in quickly and provide some support, some feedback just based on feedback I'm receiving from clients and associates and friends and family right now. I wanted to just provide some support and information for really succeeding in managing ourselves when we have these big solar flares, because it's going to continue. We are in solar maximum, but we're about halfway through. And I wanted to just share a little bit about how the solar activity and the solar flares and all these different things, how they can impact us on a variety of levels. So the best place to start with this, and this also involves the Schumann resonance, which is kind of the heartbeat of Gaia, that is a reverberance that is happening in hertz from her core, which is almost like if you imagine when you're throwing little pebbles or when you're watching raindrops into a still pond, and you see how the various ripples kind of start to overlap, right? Coming from the different impact. So if you can imagine that there are waves of frequency reverberating through all of us and all of creation constantly, coming from the solar activity, various space weather going on, solar winds, neutrinos. There's just so much going on just in the outer space in general in our galactic sector. Combining that with how Gaia is then receiving those emanations with her own heartbeat, and just kind of starts to give you a little bit of an imagined understanding, a visual of what we're going through. And this is affecting us body and mind and spirit and soul. And we are electromagnetic beings in our physicality, right? This is how the heart is working, cognitive function, all of this going on. On top of that, we have the consistently dissolving magnetosphere here, which was kind of at one point on our planet in the biosphere, providing a little bit more of a buffer for us, a little bit more of a shield or kind of an umbrella from all of the different solar radiation that is happening whenever we have these solar flares. So given that the magnetosphere is thinning, we have a little bit less of a raincoat coating the planet right now, which is then increasing our susceptibility to all of what is going on. So kind of a mouthful there. I'm going to leave quite a few links for you in the description box of different resources. So the first thing I wanted to say, I want to make sure I don't forget this, because I too am feeling all of these upgrades, having a hard time sleeping, and I call it, it's tired but wired, like you're really tired, but you also feel kind of jacked, and you could feel your heart is going more quickly, not really feeling relaxed, but also feeling quite exhausted. I call it pancake mode or melted mode, where you're just like, oh my gosh, I just kind of want to be horizontal right now. And sometimes also finding a loss of words because the linear mind is not at its best capacity. So what I wanted to make sure that I said before we get into more of the layers of our being and how to kind of just start to be more aware of yourself and your reactivity. So let's start with reactivity itself. So the first piece here is know thyself, meaning if you're an individual who is prone in your human experience to anger, or prone to anxiety, or prone to depression, each of us have a unique elemental makeup, a unique recipe of the elements of all of sacred creation. So under stress, under pressure, we may have certain patterns of reactivity or unconscious kind of conditional responses, right, to these pressures. And at first, we're not really aware of them because it's happening kind of more at a body consciousness. So as we are on this ascension journey and we are learning and remembering how to connect more with our body temple, instead of living kind of more isolated, more cerebrally, just in the mind, right? We're becoming more embodied every day, connecting more with our body. And this is a great part of some of the lessons and the gifts of the physical ascension upgrades that are happening with all of this solar activity right now, because it's actually putting us more in touch with our bodies, right? If our body feels like shit and all of a sudden we don't really have the same energy levels, there's a lot of fluctuation, It's helping us to actually unplug from the matrix, right? And pull out of the more of the 9 to 5 linear jobs, because our bodies are going more quantum. We are really starting to merge with the quantum holographic or the unified field, existing more from a 0 point, meaning that our being can fluctuate all the time, right? Based on the cosmic pulses. And we change dimensions of consciousness based on the frequency of what we're thinking about or what we're experiencing emotionally. So all of this is ultimately, I wanted to make sure I say this as well, this is all for our evolution. This is all amazing expansion, building awareness, building our unity consciousness, supporting our transformation at a cellular level, physically and spiritually, psychically, all levels of our being, as part of our evolution of consciousness, as we are becoming homo luminous. We want to make sure that when these instances of intensity arise for us, however they come through for you, be mindful of how this can support us in perhaps seeing victim consciousness. Because a lot of us, when we don't feel well, or the body isn't cooperating right with us, and we maybe are detoxing and unplugging more of that mechanized experience of the physical body. Like, why aren't you cooperating? I have to do this today. I have to do that today. Why aren't you doing that with me, for me? So we really want to be cognizant of any of kind of that victim programming, or separation from the body, battling with the body, and starting to trust its mammalian, sacred Lemurian consciousness as a starsuit that we have. So that's something, two big things I really wanted to make sure. I'm like, you know what, these are themes I'm seeing right now with clients and with family members and out in public as well. Everyone is impacted on various levels by all of this solar activity. I think I mentioned this, but I want to just make sure. I will put some resources for you to start tracking the KP index and the Schumann resonance and the solar storms in the description box. And just inviting you, when you start to feel an increase of whatever your fill in the blank common human response is to stress, right? Whether it's overwhelm, anxiety, anger, depression, heightened emotional stuff. I want to invite you to start really sitting with it and being cognizant of not spiraling. And I have all the videos I have been guided to create for you the last few years to support for these times as we continue on this amazing diamond path, this incredible experience we're sharing of coming back to divine neutrality, different breathwork practices, all of these things to help you to kind of curb the spiraling into the emotion or the program, right? So you can kind of stop it and gain control. I don't even like using control, because this isn't about controlling ourselves, but mastering your experience so that you are suffering less and having your peace be made more readily available to you. You have that power, right? This is your experience. You're in charge, right? So when we look at how these energies are impacting us, it takes us back to our elemental makeup. And this is why I'm so passionate about all of the Vedic wisdom, the ancient wisdom of the rishis and Ayurveda, because each one of us is a unique recipe, a unique biological, chemical combination, just like an amazing sacred geometric snowflake pattern, crystalline, of the elements. Each of us is a soup of the elements. Some of us have more fire. Some of us have more water, right? Some of us have more air. And I really want to invite you, whether you want to see me for a session for this, you can always reach out for that. But if that's not in your budget right now, or that's not calling to you right now, here's how you start to research your elemental makeup. You can go to my online mystery school, and there is a free course about introducing you into the wisdom of Ayurveda, which is the Ayurvedic and the holographic universe. Starting to explore yourself as a hologram and starting to explore your elemental makeup, because this is part of your sovereignty and your mastery, is starting to look at yourself as an energetic being and what are the qualities of those energies. So an individual who has a lot of air in their beingness will have more of a prone human response to overwhelm or to stress, anxiety, more of a mental kind of spiraling. You can see that in the qualities of the wind, right? It blows around. It's always moving. It's very light, and there's not really a lot of rootedness, right? Or stability with the element of air. So we're starting to go back to the elemental or shamanic foundations of our beingness, using the elemental kingdom and their wisdom teachings extremely deep. That's why I have a free gifted course on my mystery school as well, The Healing Power of Fire. And eventually I'll have one for every single elemental to support your intimacy with the elemental kingdoms as they present through you, because you will start to notice patterns in your life of how the various elements present in your psyche, right? Your thought process and your psychology, also your emotions, even your physicality and how you move through space, your speech, the qualities of foods that you eat, even your digestion, all of these various aspects of our being. We can kind of start to navigate through the elemental qualities of our own unique summation, right? Which is your own fingerprint. So the wisdom of Ayurveda, I highly recommend, if you want, go to my mystery school. I'll put the link below, sign up for the free course, and there is a dosha quiz there. And it's a very holistic quiz, which is going to ask you, it's a very personalized evaluation of your psychology and your body and different patterns in your life of how you function, how you respond to various things. Even how does hunger impact you? Are you an individual who gets hangry? You may have more fire. So through the wisdom of Ayurveda, starting to become more intimate with our own elemental makeup, this is part of our self-intimacy. This is part of our self-knowingness. And when we start to build more of an understanding of how we are created and our own individual magic, right? And our own dysfunctions, we can put the fun back in dysfunction, right? This is something one of my teachers years ago, put the fun back in dysfunction. Make your dysfunctions work for you, right? We have this kind of, as we're detoxing so much of the programming, like this judgment or this alienation of our flaws. And it's like, well, I think about that beautiful Japanese art with the more cracks in that vase, the more gold, right? That you get to fill the vase with. All those beautiful quotes about, the more cracks we have, the more light can come in, right? So if we can start to just embrace that we are perfectly imperfect and just have fun with that. So the Ayurveda can really support you. This is 5,000-year-old ancient wisdom channeled through the rishis about our elemental makeup. And it's a beautiful coming home to the body and to Gaia herself and these sacred, more kind of feral parts of our nature. So the Ayurveda is a great way. Also astrology, Vedic astrology, and then Western tropical astrology, depending on your own unique chart and the planets, the elements are associated with the planets as well. So it really starts to paint more and more of these patterns and starts to create more of a concrete blueprint for you. And that's why my whole thing is Divine DNA Blueprint, because we're using these various ancient tools as a navigation, as a compass, an individual solution, right? So when I do client sessions with people, oftentimes we're going to do I could say, okay, I'm pulling the charts. I need your birth information, right? And so we're doing a whole Ayurvedic intake so I can support you with that. And then going over Mayan astrology, Vedic astrology, and then Western tropical astrology charts so that you can start to really get a grip more so on your elemental makeup, because that's going to start to show you the patterns. Now, for me personally, I'm a projector in human design, which is, until you understand what you are, and this is true for all of us, right? Until we understand more of ourselves and how we operate and how our energy functions, it can be so disorienting to try to navigate this experience, right? Because we're trying to figure out, well, what is our way? And so I'm so thankful for these various systems. And that's another chart I pull for you also, is the human design, because it's very important. And you can do this on, I think it's Jovian Archive. So again, I'm going to list a bunch of great free resources for you if you want to delve into the charts yourself and go for it. I say, yes, that's part of your sovereignty. If you want me to support you by pulling them for you and then sitting with you in a consultation and also going into the Akashic Soul Stream together where we read the fields together and I show you how to do this more for yourself, then I do that in my Soul Stream sessions also. So always want to give you all of the different options depending on your needs. So once you start to have this unique understanding of yourself, boy, does it provide a lot of confidence, because once you know yourself, you start to feel more stabilized and, oh yeah, that's just my patterns. This is just how I'm made. And then you could use the different videos that I created a few years ago, Emotional Mastery for Entering New Earth, where you can start to use the patterns. And then all of a sudden, you're not like caught up in the pattern, because you're able to identify what's going on in your consciousness. And this is bringing in that neutral observer where you're not over identifying with the experience anymore. It gives you a gap of sovereignty to pull back and say, oh, yeah, my human aspect is can be prone to anxiety with these different things. Or sometimes this experience can pull up that rejection or betrayal program I have from, when I was a baby, right? We can start to identify, and it really helps us to get a grip more quickly so that we can stabilize and come back to peace, come back to center and calm, come back into our power again, right? And then ask for solutions, right? Sit in divine council with your teams, your guides, with the divine, with your holy I am, and ask for support for the solutions. Okay, what should I do? What aspect of me is requiring some support right now? What do I need, right? And which part of me needs what? So this is all coming into our sovereignty. And I was just really guided to share this because I do have quite a few people in my reality who really are struggling with, anxiety and different things that are really crippling them in their experience. And I remember, just to share, like, we have to celebrate how far we've come. And so I always want to use myself as an example of someone who was very ill in childhood, right? And I learned the constructs that created the illness, the separation, and I was able to then master my physical body and master my physical health, right, in my childhood. But then in my teens and late teens, I had so much rage and anger because I was starting to finally feel everything that I had bottled up and everything I had experienced, right? So then I remember I have these journals, and when I was 19 and I was just starting to get into Buddhism and the 7-point mind training, I think it is. I've referenced that book before, but Tibetan Buddhism, and starting to just read that people actually had control over their anger. And I was like, wow. And I remember that was paradigm shattering for me at 19 when the journey started to really pull me in. And I remember I wrote in my journal, one of my goals for myself is to be free of my anger. And that was back then. And I didn't know how that would ever be possible, but I set the intention, I asked, right? And then I learned how to get there. And so now all the various practices that I do that are part of my own self-maintenance, like the Tai Chi Gong and going out and grounding with nature, with Gaia herself, and being with my animals and being with my daughter, and really in the moment realizing if I'm feeling off, or if I'm noticing a reaction coming, okay, giving myself a moment. Whoa, who is this within me? Is this, my 5-year-old child? Is this what, right? And identifying what aspects of me are needing some support, where I may have been holding that back from myself. So we're all in this journey. And we are doing amazing. And even if you don't feel amazing right now, I just want you to know you're doing amazing. You're here. And a lot of times I check in with my people, and we say to each other, "Hey, how are you?" And we're like, "Well, I am." And we laugh. Like, yeah, that's a great way to say it. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to be seen, right? And processed and held, and having compassion for ourselves and others. And there's a lot going on all the time. It's an amazing layer right now that we're in on the journey. So I was just compelled to come on and just share this podcast for you all, that when you are noticing a triggering kind of really strong emotional reactivity, feeling like you're spiraling, however that presents for you, to think about checking the solar weather. Think about checking the Schumann, because I'm telling you, every time that I feel these certain things, I'll be like, oh, I should really check the KP index. And then you start to build an inventory where over time you can tell what's happening in the cosmos and on Gaia through your own body, where you have physical upgrade, we call those the Ascension symptoms, quote unquote, right? So physical responses like feeling really exhausted, or aches and pains, or flu, or foggy mind, like all these different things, having to sleep or not being able to sleep, or the tired and wired kind of thing. So we will have multiple layers or dimensions of experience in a response to the solar flares, to the solar activity. So physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, different timelines. I just wanted to come on and offer some support, offer some encouragement. And then I wanted to share this lovely activation that I received. The Leonid Lyrans are coming, and this is the earliest they've ever come, actually, to support us through July and August. Usually they come like a month from now, like mid-July, as we approach the galactic new year. So they are here. And a while back, a few months ago, they shared with me the word encouragement, and they had me break up the word. They said, okay, look, so we're going to play with this word. So we take the en off the front, and then we take the ment off, and then we have courage in the middle of en, or in, or inside, right? En, courage, and then ment, or mant, mind. So bringing the courage, the heart knowingness, into the mind. And I had this whole beautiful download that unraveled from this, where it's so important for us to encourage one another. And that's one of my favorite roles, to show up and encourage you all. And as a Leo rising, my human needs encouragement too. So I always really appreciate you all and your beautiful comments and all of your love. And, we're here in this together. So I also just wanted to encourage you all, no pun intended, to encourage yourselves and encourage one another, because I was shown the energetics of what happens when we do that. It's like we're taking these sparks, and they almost look like flowers. They're like flowers, fiery, kind of beautiful, sparkling, sparky flower petals. And we're giving each other these flowers, and we're just passing them along like ripples, one to the next to the next. When we gift each other, it's a gift. It is a gift of heart energy, of heart fire, right? We spark one another. So I just want to encourage you all to encourage yourselves, encourage one another, encourage strangers out there when you're grocery shopping. Like I tell the produce people, like, man, you guys work so hard. You're always filling the store up with gorgeous produce all the time. And they're like, wow, no one ever sees that, right? And that's because sometimes I do Instacart shopping, right? So sometimes I'm there from 8 a.m. and then I'm back at 8 p.m. and I see all the different swells of customers and how they run out of everything. And then an hour later, boom, it's all packed up again. I mean, it's incredible, the amount of labor and care. So just these little things are so impactful for people right now. So just really want to encourage you to encourage yourself, encourage one another and your children and your family and people out in public. Keep smiling at one another. We got this. We got this shift. It's very exciting. Yeah, I hope that this is supportive. And again, I'm going to leave a lot of stuff in the description box for you. Also want to share that I am offering for the entire summer a 50% off coupon code for every course on my online mystery school, Divine DNA Blueprint Mystery School. Got all kinds of stuff up there. All kinds of free stuff as well. So if you're looking to dive more into learning how to work shamanically with the element of fire for purification and supporting burning old programming and burning your energy fields with the energy of the flame and things like that, like just really fun stuff that adds a sense of depth and mystic, magic to our days. That's all there on the mystery school. So just sending you all so much love. Remember to encourage yourselves and one another. And remember, if you feel an intense reaction or a spiral back to a program where you're like, man, this again, think about checking the Spaceweather. Because a lot of this is support for us getting all of this old stuff squeezed up and out. So sending you all so much love, sending you all cheerleading here from the Olympic Emerald Ray Rainforest. You got this, and I will see you soon. This is Marissa Indigo, Divine DNA Blueprint Mystery School, signing out.